Have you ever had a part-time job? What do you reckon about the job posting below? Work 14 hours a day with no leave and no rest days, 98 hours per week, earn 5,001 per day, about $5. It looks absurd now, but that was the case in the 1970s, and it was commonplace, the times of economic development. People worked 14 hours a day for the equivalent of a cup of coffee. What comes to your mind when you think of John Taeil? It would be his self-immolation at the Pyeonghwa market in 1970, which is the most well-known incident about him. On November 13th, Taeil cried out to the government, imploring them to observe the Labour Standards Act, turning himself into flames. Why did he decide to set himself on fire? What would have made him so desperate? Taeil got a job as an assistant seamster at the age of 17. His father had forced him to drop out of school, and not being able to go to school, he'd left for Seoul with his brother. At the Pyeonghwa market, he learned various skills in order to get a job. An assistant at a clothing store was paid $0.05 for a day. This was far too scant to make ends meet. Taeil and his brother had to sleep out in the open. They did shoe polishing for guest house customers early morning and peddled chewing gum and tissues at night. They cut down on sleeping to earn money while working for 14 hours a day. Taeil referred to those days as the bitter, bone-breaking days. At 19, he finally became a tailor, but one day he saw his co-worker being fired for catching pneumonia. He challenged the injustice, but that only ended up with him getting fired. This opened his eyes to labour rights issues. Taeil got a job as an assistant again afterwards and founded the Fools Association, sarcastically implying that workers were fools exploited by capitalists. The first thing the association did was a survey on their working conditions. How many days do you rest from work a month? How many rest days do you want to have a month? Why do you still work when you're supposed to be off duty? He compiled all the survey results and delivered it to the Seoul City government and the Labour Office, but to no avail. Taeil never gave in. At 20, he changed the association name to Samdong Society and did the working conditions survey again. This time, he was able to obtain 126 responses, much more than in the first survey. He used the survey results to write up the petition for the improvement of working conditions in garment shops at Pyeonghwa Market. The petition, signed by more than 90 workers, was effective. The petition was excitedly covered by local newspapers. The Gyeongyang Daily in particular ran it as a headline in the general section under the catchy title 16-hour toil at a garment sweatshop. After the newspaper coverage, it seemed that a wind of change would blow through the Pyeonghwa market. A Labour supervisor visited the market and the shop owners promised change. However, this all rang hollow. There were no visible signs of actual changes in any of the working conditions. Taeil proposed a burning ceremony to his friends. He meant burning a copy of the Labour Standard Act. But then, to everyone's shock, Taeil set himself on fire and his friend threw a copy of the Labour Standard Act into the flames. Taeil, immersed in flames, cried out, "Uphold the Labour Standard Act! We are not machines! Rest on Sundays!" His chanting was not in vain. 1 year later, the Garment Makers, or Cheonggae Pibok Union, the first ever democratic labour union, was founded. Taking over his unfinished dream, his mother, Lee So-sun, threw her energy into the labour movement. Despite all this effort, we still have a long struggle ahead to improve the labour situation in Korea. The 5-day working week system is now established, and the situation does look much better now. but we do have many labour-related problems outstanding in society. A delivery worker died recently due to overwork and was said to have been working 14 hours a day, as Tae-il did 50 years ago. Migrant workers in Korea suffer from poor working conditions, such as those from the 1970s, and hardly get proper treatment when they're injured at work. In addition, they're often not paid and continue to work in hazardous conditions. Such poor conditions resulted in the death of the 24-year-old Kim Yong-gun in December 2018, who was a worker of the Taean power plant. For a world where no more workers' deaths occur, and where the Labour Standard Act is thoroughly observed, we still need John Tae-il's voice. He cared about others' working life and not just his own. We should respect each other's labour rights, and we must make our voices heard in the struggle for decent working conditions that enable everyone to work safely and not to lose out at work.